2017. And this graph shows its causes of food poisoning. According to this graph, you can see that the bacteria is the main cause of food poisoning. In order to prevent this food poisoning, it is very important to detect these substances at food inspection. So now we have the official method for detection. When you use this method, we have to extract the food, the bacteria or virus from food sample, and then the target bacteria will be incubated for several days. In this way, we can detect the bacteria or virus. But in this method, the extraction is a complicating process, and incubation is time-consuming. So much easier and much quicker detection system is necessary. Now, the new detection device is developed. By using this device, we can quickly detect the bacteria without incubation. However, in order to use this device, we have to do some treatment before using this device. In the actual situation, in the food, there are so many kinds of material, and it is important to extract the target bacteria only. In order to this extraction, I focus on immunomagnetic bead method. By using this method, it is possible to collect the target bacteria efficiently. So this is the application of this method. At first, we prepare the solution from food sample, and then adding the antibody. This antibody can capture only target bacteria, and other substances like foreign matter will be removed. And in this way, we can obtain the only target bacteria. Then we can use the detection sensor. So in this experiment, I focus on this extraction objective. Before using this method in the food sample, I have to consider the effect caused by foreign matter. So in my experiment, the objective is to confirm how many E. coli will be captured by antibody with under the condition that there is no foreign matter. The material is this. E. coli is the model bacteria, and PBS is the solution, and antibody and magnetic beads. In my experiment, I prepare two samples. Sample 1 is upper side, and sample 2 is bottom side. In sample 1, the beads are coated with antibody. However, in sample 2, there is no beads and no antibody. After coating the antibody with beads, the E. coli is added in sample 1 and place the water bath in for at 37 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. After that, some E. coli can be captured by antibody. And in sample 2, there is in sample 2, I also added the E. coli. And after the reaction, there are almost all E. coli is not captured. After the reaction, I obtained in sample 1 the captured E. coli, and also I incubated this captured E. coli for 1 day. In sample 2, I also incubated the whole E. coli for the same time, and I calculated the recovery ratio like this. The whole E. coli is obtained in sample 2, and the captured E. coli is obtained from sample 1. And after incubation, I have to count in colony by using this media. When I drop the sample on this media after incubation, I could obtain the colony like this. This is the results. The x-axis is the whole E. coli, and the y-axis is the recovery ratio. According to this graph, if when the recovery ratio is 0.9 or 10 to 20% of 20%, and this is the discussion. In this table, I show the concentration of E. coli and the recovery ratio and the image. When there is the 10 to the power of 8 of E. coli, the recovery ratio is 0.9. This value is very low. This is because I think the captured E. coli, the number of captured E. coli is very small compared to the whole E. coli. So the recovery ratio is low, so low. And if there is the 10 to the 6 or 10 to 5 of E. coli, the recovery ratio is 10 to 20%. But before I started the experiment, I thought if the number of E. coli is small, the recovery ratio gets higher, but the result is not so. One reason I thought is the shortage of reaction time, because compared to the upper sample, the bottom sample, in the bottom sample there is less E. coli, so it is antibody did not have enough time to encounter the E. coli and capture the E. coli, so the recovery ratio is not so high. So summary, in my experiment, objective is to confirm how many E. coli can be captured by antibody. And my conclusion is the recovery ratio is low, also, but the certain amount of E. coli is captured. And next, in order to capture the much E. coli, I have to revise the process of this method. Future plan to try revise the protocol, for example, using device. Second is to confirm the recovery ratio under the condition there is much less E. coli. And the third is to apply this method when I use the food, the actual food. So this is reference. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, question please. Okay, Yoko-san first.
Thank you for presentation. I have one question. Can this method be applied to every food or especially food? Do you think?
Every food. According to former research, some researchers apply this method into various food. So I think it is possible to apply this method to every food, or but yes.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. I just have like two simple questions. First is, I just want to know about like what exactly immunomagnetic bees are. this is like the word I heard for the first time, so I just want to know what actually the bees is. And the second question is, compared to like incubating the bacteria, how fast does it take to detect the food poisoning with this method?
Okay, the first question is what is the magnetic bees? In my experiment, I prepare the only bees, and after preparing these bees, I add the antibody to bees, and the mixture of bees and antibody is placed in the water bath for 1 hour. So during this reaction, the bees will be coated with antibody. So this is immunomagnetic bees. Second question is sorry.
How long does it take with this method to detect the bacteria compared to just incubating the bacteria?
I'm sorry for I don't know the correct time because I didn't use the detection sensor, but only extraction it takes 3 or 4 hours. So I think much quicker compared to the former method.
Thank you.
Fine. Anyone else? Okay, great. Go ahead. Yes, one more.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. You said that these new methods can reduce the time that is consumed for extracting and indicate the bacteria. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, and you said that it takes about 3 or 4 hours for extract.
Yes.
And I think its time is not so long. So in what situation do you need this method?
What situation?
Yes. So
okay. I think in order to extract only the target bacteria at the high concentration, I have to remove the foreign matter other than bacteria. So if it is if I could succeed the separation, this method can be used and very useful, I think.
okay, so you need this method for, how do I say, medical situations or other?
Medical situation is original use using this this method. So I want to apply to the food sample.
Okay. Just one suggestion from me.
Hi.
Virus is Japanese. Virus in
sorry.
English. Okay, that's all from Kyoto. NTU, please, question to him.
Okay, any questions or comments? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering on page 11 why caused the low recovery ratio.
Yes. Which condition?
The low concentration of the recovery ratio. Why?
Yes. Okay.
Because aren't they take the same time?
Yes. Yes. I think in the low when there is low concentration, the antibody antibody did not have enough time to encounter the E. coli because the number of E. coli is so small compared to the the sample of high concentration. And the second is the some magnetic bead can be is not sorry, is this enough?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, any more? Okay, that's all from NTU. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tsukuba, please.
Okay, so any other questions or comments?
Thank you for your presentation.
How did you know which E-coil was captured or uncaptured?
Okay. After the reaction, I washed this captured E. coli and the magnetic beads. The substances made of E. coli and antibody and magnetic beads. So I think the not captured E. coli is removed by washing this sample. So after that, the captured E. coli is left in the sample tube. So I think this is captured.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Hello, thank you for your presentation. It's very good. I just want to make a comment, like just a recommendation on your study. Is this your own study?
All right.
Okay, because it's really nice the objective of your study. It would be also good if you can use this method on other like bacteria that infect the human, like salmonella or like clostridium, and also like other viral virus. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No? Okay, so one question. Okay. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. And
We can hear the voice from NTU. The voice. We cannot hear the voice from NTU.
okay, so can you hear me? Okay.
It'll be better.
So my question, Professor Chen, okay? Can you hear me?
Can you be a little bit louder? Louder.
Louder. This is maximum.
Okay.
Maximum level.
Now it's okay.
Okay.
Now it's okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So my question is, in this slide, so how do you know your beads is covered with antibody or not?
Yes. In order to confirm whether the beads is will be coated or not, I can confirm by measuring the optical density at 595 nanometer. Sorry, 500 nanometer. And this. Yeah, sorry for Japanese. Yeah, I have this so yeah.
I see.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all from your side.
Okay. Sorry, only Japanese can understand. That's all. Presentation and discussion. Yeah, very nice discussion. I appreciate your discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's all presenters' presentation this year. And next would be Pia Sensei give us a lecture about the guidance for writing some thesis, writing extended abstract. Okay, Pia Sensei, please.
Okay, good morning. So I'd like to talk about what is going to be the next stage of this course. So everybody has given a presentation, and over the New Year period, we're going to get you to write an abstract about your presentation. And hopefully you have been given a handout that explains what is required of you. So it will be approximately 500 words in length, and there are also size of the font, etc. And today what I'd like to do is to give you a more clearer idea about how to go about writing that abstract. Okay, so just to show you what the end product is like, I have prepared an example abstract. Okay. So it will have a title like here, and preferably what I'd like you to do is not to write the title of the paper or the research that you have chosen, but to write one that focuses on the content that you have presented. So you can add a value to your presentation and the reporting of that abstract, of that paper that you have done, by telling your story about, this is the part I focused on. Okay, I'll go into more detail about that a little bit later. So it'll have an introduction, methods, conclusion, and references of what you used. Okay, and it'll be about 500 words. Okay, so let's now start to think about how can we go about preparing that abstract. And so before I do that, what I'd like to do is get you to think about abstract. And I have handed, hopefully, TAs, could you please hand out to the students the jumbled abstract I have prepared. Okay, so in front of you, you have an abstract that has been jumbled. The sentences have been changed, but I have numbered each of these sentences. Now what I'd like you to do in groups of 2 or 3 is in that group work out the correct order, which is number 1, which is number 2, put the name there, okay? So I'll give you a short time and please work in groups to work out what is the order of these paragraphs. And as a first hint, you do not need to read all the sentences in that paragraph. For instance, number 1, it says, our results show. That is not the introduction. That's telling you already that they have given you the result, introduction, the methods, and the first results. Now they're describing what those results mean. So you can, from the wording, already start to pick out where it is, okay? So please, in your groups, now try and define what is the word order of the paragraph order. Okay. So hopefully TAs, please make your student or encourage your students to be noisy. Silence is no good. Okay, so I'll be going around each of the universities and asking that particular university why they chose a particular response. So I'll give you 1 or 2 more minutes, then I'll ask you to decide in your groups which is the paragraph 1 and to go to this internet site with your smartphone and vote on which one you think should be the first paragraph in that abstract. Okay, so you only have 1 more minute left. So get noisy and vote. Okay, can you please start to go to the internet and put in your choice? Okay. In Scuba University, did anybody choose number 3 in Scuba University?
No.
Yes?
No.
No? Okay. In NTU, did any student choose number 3? Okay. One of you, could you explain to me why you chose number 3?
Why?
Why do you think number 3 is the first one?
I think that is an ice-breaking sentence.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how do you know that?
This sentence doesn't show the details about the article.
Yes, it's showing more the background.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's telling us it's about freezing stress, and it's about wheat seedlings, and it's looking at the effect on yield. So it's really just defining the context of the story. So 3 is the correct answer. Okay, so now I'd like to go to the second one. What do you think is the second one? And I'll be asking Scuba University to explain why they chose the answer they chose. Okay? So please, an answer, please write your answer for number 2.
Selection method. 5 and 4. Yeah, there's
5, right?
yeah. 1, 4.
Is there 1, 2, 3?
1, 2.
1 to 6. Or 1 is the last one.
Okay, so Scuba University, everybody so far has voted for 5. Why do you think it is 5?
Because it's talking about the method, how the freezing was done in 3 dates in 2010. So it talks about the method.
Okay, yes, so it has started from defining the context. Now it has gone into the what is the general approach to how they're going to measure differences in stress. Okay, so can you please now go to the third one? And Kyoto University, I'll be asking you why you chose. Okay, Scuba University. Everybody has chosen number 4. Can somebody please explain to me why you think it is 4? Anybody? Okay, yes, so it goes into further explanation about the method. Okay, and so if you went to the 4th one, you would find that it was, you could start to then easily go through what are the results, what is the conclusion, and finally get to the end where our results show that if it is feasible to monitor freezing stress. So it is coming back out again there. So it's, even though it is jumbled, you can, looking at the words, looking at the logical structure, work out how they have built their story. When you come to write your abstract, if I jumbled your abstract, I should be able to do the same thing. So you need to be able to, using, like the very first sentence says, our results show. That is a very big sign, neon sign, telling the reader or telling the people who are watching your presentation, this is the part I'm at now. You're helping the audience to follow the story through. So your wording, when you come to do your abstract, needs to do the same thing, and your title also needs to do the same thing. So what I'd like to do now, in your groups, I'd like you to send to this website, what do you think are the key words for that title? What do you think should be in that title? If you were going to write this title to reflect that same story. Okay. Okay, that's great. You're seeing that the main topic is about freezing stress. What is it freezing stress in? It's in wheat. And then how do you go about measuring it? It's about those imaging methods. So that if you're going to create a title that reflects that, those key words need to be in that title. Okay. So now I'd like to give the actual presentation about how to go about doing that. So I have entitled my presentation, The Art of Abstract, through the lens of discovery. What I mean by that is that we are all overloaded with information. We don't have enough time to read every article in our particular field. We are going to use abstracts, titles, to make choices about what we're going to spend our time on. And so your title, your abstract for a presentation, for a manuscript, is your marketing tool, your tool to help the other people who are trying to decide whether they're going to spend their time to read that is you only have one chance, and that chance is with the title and the abstract. If that abstract is not very specific, then the person will hit the delete button. It will never be discovered. Okay. However, so again, it should be self-contained. You don't need to need any extra information. It should be telling the story. And so those key words that you said, it was freezing stress in wheat using hyperspectral imaging. That's telling a story. How are we going to measure freezing stress in wheat? We're going to use this imaging, hyperspectral imaging. And because we've published it or presented it, you can assume that they have been successful. So already when the person sees that title, they already have a story starting to come into their head. That's what the title and then the abstract needs to follow on and tell that same story. And the jumbled one you saw there, it had a very logical structure that you could come back and put it in the right order. Okay. So this abstract is what we call in English a elevator speech. Is one that you are about to get into an elevator and along comes Bill Gates or Obama, President Obama or somebody else, and you only have 2 or 3 minutes to tell them your great story. Okay, you can't go and tell lots of different things. You have to be very careful about what you choose to tell in that abstract. The same as an elevator speech, okay? So I heard a story of a professor one time. If you want to, a 10-minute summary, I can have it for you a week from today. So it's going to take me 1 week to prepare a 10-minute presentation. If you wanted 30 minutes, I can do it tomorrow. I don't need so much time. If I have a whole hour, I'm ready now. Okay? So your abstract is like that. It's the hardest thing to do because you've got to cut out all the clutter. You've got to really start to focus in on what is the most important part. What is the story I want to tell? And the title and the abstract set that context. And so without context, you may think that without context is ex-President Obama doing something not very good. But if there's context to it, you can understand it. The same with your research. If you just give them a point in space without any context, it doesn't mean anything to the audience. It means something very much to you, but it doesn't mean to the audience. And so that title and that abstract sets that context. And that context has been recognized from time immemorial. There are many different types of gates or entrances that say, this is where you're coming into this particular place. So in Taiwan or in Japan or in other ancient civilizations or in modern shopping, they realize the necessity of setting that context. And that's what your abstract should be doing, okay? Oops. Why is it not going? Okay, what's that? My computer. Okay, so now I'd like to just briefly go back over what I said in the first part of the, when we started this course about how to go about preparing your presentation. The same can be said for preparing your abstract. First of all, you really need to start to define the story and the audience. And so in this case, your audience is in 3 different universities. They have very different research areas. So you need to be able to talk in a way or to write in a way that those people from different areas can start to understand the context in words that they will understand, not the specialist expert words you think. In order to do that, you really need to start to look at what is it I want to tell in this abstract, and what are the facts, what are the most important things that will help me tell that story. Not, this report had 8 different results. Don't tell all 8 of them if they are not important for the story you are telling. You are going to be taking part of that research and writing that abstract. And then once you've got that, decide how you're going to use it to what data are you going to, how you're going to present that data. And then you then start to look at how to show the results, how to tell the story, not to report the details. And finally, you come back and you know at the end, you know the end at the beginning. So the title is going to be telling that story of what the end of the abstract is. So if we look at it in a more easy to understand way is, first of all, you define the story. This is what I want to tell in this abstract. And then you collect the evidence that defines that story. Not every part of the research is necessary to define that story. Then when you know what evidence you need, you can tell what methods, what results, and what discussion will be needed in that abstract. Then finally, to make sure that the story is consistent, you can start to now write your introduction and conclusion. And finally, the title and this whole abstract is going to be a consistent story that leads your readers through it. Okay. And so in the case that you looked at, they said diagnosing freezing stress in wheat seedlings using hyperspectral imaging. You got the keywords right, because that they had already done the hard work of defining, we want to be able to tell you this in the introduction, and then we're going to explain how we did this in the methods and results section. Okay, so in this case, they set out to answer the following questions. What do the results say? What do the results mean in their context? Again, that context. So what do those results say? The 2 main parts. The overall observations of the experiments provides the big picture, and then they provide some of the details. An example we saw with this is increased freezing injury was related to increased spectral reflectance. Is the main story. We could see that when there was freezing damage, it made a change in that region. And then they go on to say the more specific details about how that change occurred. So they have answered those 2 questions that we were looking at there. What do their results say? The results say that we could find differences, and what are some of the particular parts, details of that change. Okay, so we now go to the methods section, and the methods section is probably one of the easiest ones to measure, easiest ones to write, but it's also, you need to write it in a way that you create these 3 key words: repeatability, credibility, and enable evaluation. What you're really saying is, I want you to trust what I have done. So I'm going to tell you why I did it, how I chose to do it, and how I'm going to measure that and I'm going to give you the ability to decide whether I have done it in a thorough way, in a way that is something that you can trust and start to choose to do based on that information. You base your own research on that. So this repeatability, credibility, and evaluation means that you don't need to describe how I measured pH. But if you are measuring something like hyperspectral imaging that some other people may not necessarily know about, you need to justify, why did I use hyperspectral imaging over some other method? And what path, how did I use that? Give the audience a reason to be able to look at what you have done and understand your logic, understand the reasoning behind it, so that they can start to believe the results that are presented. So go on to the discussion. Discussion is revisit the main purpose. Review most important findings. It is not a just a repeat of the results. It is now starting to summarize those results and highlighting the most important ones and what the authors thought those results meant. So in the case of the one we saw, our results show that it is feasible, it is possible to monitor freezing stress of wheat seedlings. That is the big story. It's not we found at 625 nanometers a peak at X level of intensity, but this is the main story. And how did they do it? Using a hyperspectral imaging which could accurately reflect freezing injury in those seedlings. So they have not repeated what's the results, but they have repeated what is the meaning of those results for them. Now we come to the introduction, and this introduction, like I said in the first week of the this course, it's like a funnel, and it's looking at setting the context of what we're studying. So they are studying about freezing stress. It could have been freezing stress in corn or in some sort of animal. So of all the possible freezing stresses, we're going to start to look at wheat. And then we're going to look at it, wheat in this, these particular cultivars of wheat, and in this way. So they're coming down, dumbing down, and the question is, can we monitor freezing stress using hyperspectral imaging? And so now they have defined their thesis, their hypothesis of this is what we want to find out in this research. And so when they go to the methods, when they go to the results, you already have in your mind, the reader or the audience, this is what I expect them to be able to report to me. By having that, building up that expectation, you have helped them to start to predict what you are going to say, and in so doing, if there are some hard words, some expert words that they don't understand, because they understand the context, it is not so important. Okay. So introduction sets the context of the research, defines the problem, defines the scope, this is the part that we are going to do, and states the objectives of the research. So if we go to their introduction, low freezing stress of wheat seedlings adversely influences growth and final yield. So what they're saying is this stress is important if we were thinking about yield in wheat. They have set the context. Why are they doing it? Because this is an important environmental factor that is affecting yield. So we need to be able to measure it. So Again, what they've done is they've set the context. It's about freezing stress in wheat. What are the problems? It's creating injuries. It is going from the general, these injuries, to it's reducing yield. Yield in agriculture is extremely important. What are they trying to do? We're trying to measure that injury. And what is done or how? We're going to be using hyperspectral imaging to do that. Then what did they find? They found that there were changes in those hyperspectral imagings that were related to the injury. And they could use that to start to monitor that, and they gave details about this is the wavelengths. This is the part that we need to measure because this is the most sensitive part. Okay. And finally, in that, what does it mean? It means that we can use hyperspectral imaging to go out into the field where we maybe suspect that freezing injury has occurred, and we can start to actually now start to use it in the future, maybe in a non-destructive way of monitoring in the field. Okay, so if we then think about the title, it should be accurate, it should be short, it should be easy or easy to understand, and it should be a description of the story of what was investigated. So, what is the research about? What techniques were used? What is studied? What were the findings? So, one way of doing that, like we did today, is identify keywords and then start to arrange them in sentences, many different sentences, and look at how is the best way, which sentences best describe that. So rather than just trying to write the sentences without much thinking, go first to identify the keywords, look at how you can arrange those, and then pick out sentences that are more appropriate to describe that. So delete waste words, delete non-essential information. So a number of papers will say the study of, the research of, something like that. But those words are not necessary. They are, if you are having a database search and you put the word research in, you'll get billions of papers coming in. It's not going to help you isolate what particular study you are, or what particular topic you are interested in. So if I was trying to look at freezing stress, I would put freezing stress in, but freezing stress would become also mountain climbers have freezing stress because their fingers become frozen. So then I need to put in wheat if I was wanting to more isolate that particular thing. I wouldn't be looking at the research of plant damage in the field. That wouldn't give me the results that I wanted. So you're going in reverse. When you want people to find your research, you need to put as many keywords about your research that others will use when they are going to isolate what they want to find. So if you look at the case of this title, Diagnosis of Freezing Stress in Wheat Seedlings Using Hyperspectral Imaging. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 keywords there. And what is this research about? It's about the diagnosis, about detecting, about understanding how damage occurs in wheat. What is the technique used? Hyperspectral imaging. What was studied? Wheat seedlings. And what were the findings? Stress in wheat can be diagnosed using hyperspectral imaging. This is implied. They wouldn't have published it or given a presentation if it had not been successful. So that title is telling a story that somebody who is interested in this field can easily find. And your abstract needs to follow that same pattern of telling that story in order to be consistent. So this is an example of one in a previous year where this research presentation was given, and the title in this case was Machine Vision Algorithm for Robots to Harvest Strawberries in Tabletop Culture Greenhouses. So it's telling us the main part is looking at machine vision, but it's telling us where is that machine vision doing. It's about robots harvesting strawberries. Where? Not in the field, but on tabletop culture greenhouses. So they have isolated that story. And then they've gone in these introductions and other things to go on to tell that story in more detail. Okay. So, one more. So, in their introduction, this previous paper of your senpai, during strawberry harvesting, the half-sitting posture and long working hours required causes load and fatigue on workers and reduces harvesting efficiency. In one sentence, they have told you the problem is the workers, they have to bend over, pick the strawberries. It's taking a lot of stress on them. So the implication is we need to change this. We need to automate it, have a robotic system. Then, to overcome this, a tabletop cultivation method is being developed. Strawberries can be detached with stems and leaves connected, and thus robots can be used for harvesting. So they first tell us about, they put the strawberries not on the ground on the field, but on a platform, so that now robots can come along and pick it. And this research, so this is defining why this area of research is important, what is the context of it, they're looking at it in tabletops and greenhouses, and what part are they going to look at? This research examines the acquisition of three-dimensional information. So it's not about the mechanics of it or how you put the computer machine vision separated, but they're looking at how the actual image capturing is the part that they are looking at now, not other parts. So in that, like I showed you with that funnel, they've gone from very broad one right down to this is the part that we are going to look at. And that sets the whole context for the rest of the methods, results, and discussion. But I would assume that this was written last. It wasn't written first, because you need first to describe the story, and then you can come back and write this much more easily. Okay, so are there any questions? That's all I have for today.
Anyone? Any university students? Maybe not.
No, okay.
So can you show us the what they have to do during holidays?
Okay.
Yeah, January 6th, we are going to revise their abstract.
Okay. So today is the presentation. I would hope that you email your abstract to your TA by the 27th of December, by Friday this week. They will then collect all of those abstracts and send it to the professors. And over the New Year period, we'll check those, and then on January 6th, we'll come back and in each university, we will pick out a representative of each of those abstracts from each of the universities, and we will, in the class, discuss what are the good points and what are some of the things that could be improved. So in order to be able to do that on January the 6th, we need you to submit your abstract by the 27th, so that then with 40 abstracts, we can then go through and check each of those, grade them, and in January on the 6th, come back here and give you some suggestions about what was good, what could be improved.
Fine, you understand? That's a very important information. Deadline would be 27th December. That means today is the 23rd. 4, 5, 6, only 4 days. Huh? Fine. If you have any complaint, then please tell him. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, wait. You need it.
Oh, email address is what?
Okay, so each of your TAs, for Scuba University, Scuba University students will have to email the TA at Scuba University. For Kyoto University, the Kyoto students will have to email the TA in Kyoto, and in NTU, the students in NTU will have to email the TA in NTU. Those TAs will coordinate the information for each of the universities, and then we have an aggregation of all 3 universities so that the professors will be able to examine all 3 universities and provide feedback to that. So after this class is finished, I hope that the TA will, in each of the universities, inform them of the email address that they have to send their abstracts to. Okay.
Hello, Professor Peter. Could you send your PowerPoint to all the students of the class?
Oh, yes. Okay. I will. I'll get the TA to upload it to the website.
Okay. Thank you. And I think according to our practice in last year, due to the time in next class in January 6th, I think only 2 students from each university were selected for their feedback in class, although all students will be feedback in written. But how do you think? Only 2 students for each university?
Yes, I think as you said last year,
yes.
When in the class, we only looked at 2 abstracts from each university, but we also provided written comments to all the students according to the abstract. But because we don't have enough time in one class to look at a large number of students, it worked much better if we picked out 2 representatives from each university, and each university facilitates the discussion about the 2 students' abstracts that are being discussed in the class.
Yes, thank you.
Any question? Can you really finish writing? One page
yes.
Abstract, 1 page abstract. Form is 2 columns. Can you show us the forms?
Okay.
Maybe they can imagine what they have to do.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, take a look. This is a sample, example. Title, as he mentioned, and next would be authors. This is a paper author, and your own name also necessary. Your own name and introduction. Start with the introduction and methodology, material, methodology, something, blah, 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 something. Second section would be
methods.
Oh, okay. Materials and method. This is a very typical section name. And tertiary, the results and discussion. And finally, conclusion and reference. Okay, this is the usual way to make. Okay, you want. Okay,
That would be helpful. Is it possible?
Okay, so you will have to negotiate with the TAs. The end of year here at Churton University, at least, is 27th of December. So if you are going to ask the TAs to do the aggregation later, it means it's on their, not on university time.
We have a time difference in Taiwan. That's just kidding. Anyway. Okay, fine. You have a confidence to do it. Form would be downloaded, maybe. This form.
This, the two columns?
Oh,
yeah.
Form. That form would be uploaded somewhere and they can download, or TA may give them a form.
Yes, the TA.
Okay. TA may give them, send the form. 2 columns and 40 lines, maybe 30, 40 lines.
Roughly about 500 words.
500 words. 500 words. Okay. Okay. So all should do the formally 27th, but you can negotiate with the TA a little bit to extend, maybe 30 or end of this year, but I'm not sure.
Excuse me.
Anything from NTU or Tsukuba? Any question? All students fine? Oh, Tsukuba students are very good.
Professor
No
Kondo,
complaint.
I think we have a format from the last year that each student need to put his name or her name on the abstract, in addition to the authors for the the paper titles. So probably I will find it out and send it to all the TAs and share with all the students about the format of the abstract.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, right. That is easier to complete this.
Yes.
These problems. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Please, all TAs, you share the form last year's papers. Fine. Anything else? I think that will be all. If you have anything else. Fine. Yeah. Actually, we have today's class is the final class in Japan, but NTU may have another class in this year.
That's right.
So I would like to say to NTU people, have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yes.
Today.
Yeah. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you.
Okay. Thank you. You too. Okay. Thank you very much. See you next year. Okay, bye-bye.
See you next year.
See you next year. Merry Christmas.